Well, thanks for joining us today for the Connecticut Equity Study Public Information meeting. I think our agenda, we could advance to the next slide. CHRO will provide some opening remarks, then we can introduce ourselves, provide some background and context on this project, including goals, our expected process and timeline, and specifically opportunities for public engagement throughout the course of the study, and certainly welcome any question and answers as well. So CHRO, can I turn it over to you for any opening remarks?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya Hughes. I'm the Executive Director here at the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. I see you have our agency mission posted. I'm happy that we are celebrating our 80th year of having a mission of trying to eliminate discrimination in the state of Connecticut. And we do that through enforcement, education, and outreach. And we seek ways to try to identify and promote opportunities for a diverse, equitable, and inclusive government. And for the most part, we believe our state is doing a pretty good job in terms of compliance with our statutes and exhibiting good faith efforts at achieving parity in our state. However, we do recognize that the emphasis has evolved over the years. There's a greater emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and less on parity. And so we pride ourselves on being a very progressive state. We have progressive laws, and at CHRO, we have a newly invigorated diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. We have many organizations that come to rely on the educational content, trainings, and outreach. Hello? We're getting some feedback. During the 2021 session, the Connecticut General Assembly provided the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities with a $4 million award to conduct a disparity study and an equity study. And the enabling legislation requires our agency to oversee a study of equity in our state programs and actions. And in consultation with the Department of Administrative Services and the Office of Policy and Management, we selected the Faulkner Group, which is a national consultant firm, which conducts the statewide study into our programs and policies, with the goal of determining whether or not equity or inequities exist in our state programs and policies. And we're hoping that you'll be able to provide some recommendations to improve our state programs. And we believe that as overseen by the CHRO, it will be an in-depth look at our programs and actions to assess equity with respect to race, ethnicity, religion, income, geography, gender identity, sexual orientation, and disability. The work began in December of 2022. We believe we're on track to meet the final report deadline of October 31st, 2023. And we'll hear more information on that today. We're currently at phase 2 with key data collection tools and documents currently in development, and coordinating with the 23 participating executive branch agencies. So we welcome you. We look forward to the continued progress and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. So Faulkner Consulting Group is an organization that really focuses on mission-driven work in the public sector at the intersection of policy, operations, and analytics. Over the last few years, we've done a lot of work in the equity space. My colleague Wanda McLean and I will co-lead this engagement, and are supported by several team members from Faulkner Consulting Group. My background and expertise is in population health. I've done a lot of work in health equity related programs nationally and in New England, particularly for Medicaid members, including equity issues for people of color, as well as a particular focus on the LGBTQ plus community. Faulkner Consulting Group has also done a lot of work over the last few years with the Department of Social Services in Connecticut, advancing health-related programs and equity-related initiatives for that agency.
And hi, I'm Wanda McLean, and I am a co-lead with Angela and the team on this project. I'm very excited to be with you this afternoon. I have also led extensive health equity engagements, really looking at the issues of social determinants of health and how they impact broad populations. I've done engagements around broader issues of equity and also community engagement and helping clients to implement strategies to improve equity within both public sector and nonprofit organizations. I am thrilled to be part of this team and this project. And if we can go to the next slide, I'll share a little bit more about the context for the equity study. The Connecticut General Assembly, as you heard, crafted this study to align the state's efforts with the federal efforts to pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity. In January of 2021, President Joe Biden issued an executive order to have the federal government conduct a comprehensive approach to advancing equity, and is looking still at these the issues of inequities in executive branches and in departments and strategies to improve and address those inequities in their programs. The key outcomes expected from that study and that executive order are the equity action plans, the data work group, and an assessment of a review of the assessment of best practices around equity. A few months later in June, the state of Connecticut also passed legislation to undertake an equity study, and we're working with the team at CHRO, the Department of Administrative Services, and the Office of Policy and Management. And this study will look at those practices, policies, and programs of the agencies to improve the opportunities for equity for all Connecticut residents. Next slide, please. So the goals of the equity study, as you heard, it's a multi-phase study, and we have completed the first phase. We are now solidly in the second phase of this work. The goals of the equity study for the state of Connecticut are, number one, to evaluate the key programs and policies of those 23 agencies to understand whether underserved populations are facing systemic barriers to accessing the benefits and opportunities. We're currently conducting a landscape analysis and reviewing demographic and outcome data to identify patterns of discrimination and inequity, and then we'll provide recommendations to improve on those disparities. Some of the key outcomes are to contribute to the Connecticut's goal of improving the data practices, how it collects data across the state, a review of the trends and the progress that the state is making in addressing areas of known disparity, an evaluation of the root causes that drive those disparities to access and to outcomes, and recommendations, suggested approach and recommendations to remedy those existing disparities that may be uncovered through this work. Next slide, and I think I turn it back to you, Angela.
Thanks, Wanda. So as we've talked about so far, this study will be conducted over 11 months, and we're anticipating 5 phases of work where we've completed phase 1 of some initial planning and designing the work plan to support the engagement. And then through community engagement and data collection, analysis of that data, and development of recommendations and implementation plans, we'll work through a very iterative process to get to a final report. Our style is not to collect all the data, then stop, then analyze the data, then stop, then develop recommendations and implementation plans. We really anticipate working with the state and the public to evolve those identification of key problems and recommendations and corresponding implementation plans to make sure that the results of this study are truly actionable for Connecticut. So when we think about the data collection, we're looking at several different sources. We're looking at publicly available data that we can identify benchmarks and be able to compare Connecticut's equity starting point to other regional and national benchmarks. Then we're also conducting interviews with every executive branch agency within Connecticut, and working with those agencies to identify at least one program within the agency where there are opportunities to improve equity. For that program, we'll work with the agency to get any quantitative data that we can use to document the baseline starting point, set targets for improvement, and any other information that we can glean from the programmatic data from the agency. We will also have a public survey available and be working through focus groups. I think on the next slide, we have some additional detail on that. So there are many ways in which you as Connecticut residents can engage in this public process to inform the Connecticut equity study. We will be doing focus groups, and focus groups will include both community-based organization participants for organizations that represent key interest groups that work with state agencies and have perspectives on behalf of the groups that they advocate for or represent on opportunities for improving equity and ways in which to make those opportunities actionable. We'll also solicit participation from Connecticut residents broadly in focus groups to inform the work. You'll find a link to a public survey on the CHRO website. That public survey is open now and will be open through the duration of the study. At any point in time, Connecticut residents are encouraged to provide any relevant information, personal experiences, feedback, anecdotes, recommendations that you think would be useful to Connecticut and informative to the study. And then at the end of this process, once we have a draft final report that summarizes our findings and recommendations, we'll also conduct a listening tour to get some final feedback before truly finalizing the report. So on the next slide, I'll turn it back over to Wanda.
So as Angela said, we're very interested in your feedback, and your contribution to this effort is really sought and valued. So you can find information about the equity study on the CHRO website, and there is a link to that website here. You can provide information through into the public survey that Angela mentioned by scanning the QR code here, or by going to the website that's indicated. And if you have questions about the equity study that we have not covered today, you can reach out to the Faulkner Consulting Group, and you can sign up to be kept informed. Again, you can use either the QR code or the link to SurveyMonkey, and we really do hope that you will participate in this process. Next slide. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you, or you can use the chat function and we will unmute you that way. So we want to thank you again for your participation, and we'll pause to see if there are any questions. I think that we don't have any questions at this point in time. Again, we really do want to thank you all for engaging in this important work that is being led by the state of Connecticut to understand the issues as it relates to equity and to improve outcomes in that regard. Thank you so much.